at that time, even though it's not committed, data will be applied to your hard disk drive. Okay? So which means some of them are new. 10% increased value, new. Okay? Also at the same time, all the image will be where? Here. Roll back segment. It's an old image. So, for example, my salary looks like the 10K and here 11K. Rollback segment has the 10K, the data file has 11K. Okay? Because we do not have enough space on the buffer cache. Even though that is not commit yet, okay, it will be applied to the data file. Okay? So, problem.
Professor,
yes.
what if at that moment another user connects to the database? There will be salaries that have been updated and others no?
If before commit, other user will access rollback segment data. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, before image.
Okay.
Because it's I will explain the characteristic of the transaction later, isolated. Okay, because until I commit, it's isolated. It's only my transaction see the 1.1. Okay, so that is the reason we have the rollback segment. Depending on the DBMS, it's different name. Okay, but each and every DBMS has such a place to keep the old image. Okay, where is it? It's a secondary storage, hard disk drive. It should be the permanent, the storage. Then problem is before coming. Somebody unplug the power. We do not have any data on the memory. Okay? Then let's take a look at the hard disk drive. Is it one or two? Is it the new one or the old one? It's a new one because we flush it. Right? Even though it's not committed, it's still new. Right? What about the log data? Is there any logging? No. Until commit, it's not logged. Okay? Actually, there is a logging but no commit. Okay? But I'm simplifying. So it's not logged. Okay? It's not logged. Then, what if somebody accesses the data? So all the data will be, we do not know which one is which because we flushed out. At that time, when you start up, okay, when you start the system, check whether this command is here. Okay, this value, we keep the date timestamp. Timestamp, actually there is a different data structure to keep but it's the same as the timestamp. Timestamp, whether there is a command, is a valid command. There's no valid command in the log, which means we need to go back. This is not the valid value, check the rollback and bring all the data to the data file. Okay? Go back. This is called undo operation. We need to do undo. Because it's not valid new data. We should go back to the original old data by checking the log information. It's the undo, go back to the transaction. So these redo and undo operation are two major operations to keep the consistency of your data based on what? Transaction concept. It's not only for the database. Many of the systems, including operating system, even application use such the mechanism. Then, what is this? BNR. Backup and recovery. When I joined, I got the first job as a database administrator, which is unusual to be an administrator as an entry level, the position. But the only reason was my major was mathematics, so the supervisor believed the major in math can understand the relational database concept. easily. So without any experiencing on the computer science or the such a, I didn't major in the computer science in my undergraduate, but I did. He mentioned the two important things as a database administrator at the first, really first day of the first job. One thing is this. You can be excused if you success, if you fail the recovery. Okay? If you did the backup. Okay? However, if you fail the backup, it cannot be excused. There is no way to recover your system. But if you did the backup successfully, it's not a problem of me. Later, you can call the Oracle Service Center or information support or expert team. Then using the backup, you can recover your system. So always backup is the most important one. If you do not have backup, there is no other way. It cannot be excused. It's the same thing on your laptop. A lot of students complain or ask the excuse, I did my homework and project by due date, but suddenly my system is gone and I do not have the backup. It's your fault. Okay. So backup and recovery. That's the first important thing as a database administrator. Then do you know what is the second most important thing as an administrator? Database knowledge, computer knowledge,
Business maybe.
business. Second important thing is security. It's actually 51% of the entire job of administrator.
Data preparation.
Data preparation. It's a documentation. Okay. Your security is not. You can quit your job anytime. Okay. Company doesn't care. Okay. Even though you are gone, the company will survive for a while. Not forever, but they don't care. But they care whether you keep the documentation. That documentation will keep your job and the position. Even though you get a job, you find a job, or if you encounter any problem, first take a look at your document. What did you do? Okay, whether that is the authorized audit or not, such a thing. So documentation is most. So, but I have seen a lot of, even the classroom project is the same thing. A lot of students did a very good job for the programming and nice without any installation guide or the README file. Then the GA and me are not experts, not better than you in terms of programming. But it's your responsibility to give all the information about your implementation and anything. So documentation is much more important, I believe, I agree. Okay, as especially administrator, Unix administrator, network administrator, any kind of administrator job need the documentation. So it is one of the tips. So when you have interviews, like some of them, not many, but the administrator job, you can, instead of fancy nice implementation of the programming skill, so sometimes you can show your documenting skill, okay, or how to log in, in my case, I usually use the note, not the computer note, so just the note. Then I keep the logging and the writing the request, any situation. Then by week, if I have a time, I actually make the document. Should be standardized also. It's not the contesting of the new fancy nice design, so standardized. Then share with the other in your people. Okay, from that point of view, like the version controlling, when you are working with the classmate or teammate, that's also important. Many of the students didn't pay attention to such an importance of the teamwork so they don't want the superstar in the project team. Instead, they want to hire the person who can cooperate with the other. Okay, so let's go back to this. So backup and recovery. In terms of backup and recovery, then now I can explain about the backup. What do you need to backup from the disk, the diary? What do you need to backup? First, definitely you need to back up the disk, right? Data file. Without data file, so there's no other way. Data file, that's the most of the students are doing. If I ask you back up the laptop, you can copy and paste. Or the from C drive, the Control C and Control V to your external hard disk drive. That works for the operating system. What about the database? Does it work?
No.
If your system is down, okay? If your system is down, not working, then you can copy and paste any file in your system. That is called cold backup. Cold backup means while your system is not working, there's no change, no transaction, you can just copy and paste. It's a cold backup. Very easy, okay? And reliable. Very easy to recover. How to recover? Using the cold backup. Copy and paste. Okay? Copy and paste. Problem? What if the system is running, which means transaction is running like this? You see, some of data, sometimes, even though commit, sometimes even though before commit, it's after image, right? New data. So we cannot guarantee. With the cold backup, we cannot guarantee. So to address that problem, we have hot backup. Hot backup means while your system is running. Oh, also, another problem of the cold backup is during the backup you cannot
Update?
do any, anything. Because it's a system down. It's downtime. Nowadays, it's not allowed. Right? Most of the system require 24 hours, 7 days a week, and 365 hours a day a year without stopping. So cold backup is not applicable for the while you are running your system. So to address the problem, we have a hot backup. Hot backup, you can still running your system. Then obviously we need to back up this one, the data file. What about the memory? We cannot back up the memory. Okay? Definitely we cannot back up the memory. We need to back up log file. That is most important thing when you back up the database. Okay? Database in your system, especially hot backup. During the hot backup, we can back up the log file. While data is updated, we can, as long as we know what happened. Okay? This, if we have this one, we can restore. Okay? For example, system down, I try to recover. So, for example, this is the day 1, day 2, day 3. First time you can do the cold backup. Okay? Then while your system is running, okay, then day 3, your system is the down. So, problem. So you need to restore your system. If you have the only cold backup, you can go back to the day 1 only. You lose this data. However, if you have the log data, you can continuously back up log data. After you apply the recover to the day 1, you can apply the rest of them using the log file. It is true it takes some time, but you still can recover your system. There are a bunch of different scenarios of the backup and recovery, but this is a general case. At that time, it will be either redo or undo operation during the recovery. That is the reason redo and undo is the very, very fundamental operation for recovery purpose to keep the consistency of your system. So, during the hot backup, this is more important. The log file is more important. Okay? Any question about this? It's not easy to understand at once. Okay? Nobody explained this kind of concept at once. So it will be based on the query processing, query optimization, and transaction management, even backup and recovery together. That is one of the reasons why I love to study and database system. So database system has such a kind of beauty of the consistency and concurrency. Okay, so let's go back to the sometimes I ask the question why I give the sum of the diagram of this one and explain about, for example, how does the backup and recovery work? Or what is the instance recovery? Explain based on the given information. Okay, then you should be able to answer. I'm not sure that this exam, so if I have a time, because it's very hard to grade. Yeah, but there is no general answer, so it is very hard to grade. It takes a very, very long time, but I'm thinking. So this is a transaction, okay? So we already talked about such a transaction. Transaction always begin with the begin transaction and end with the end transaction. End transaction, there are two cases, the commit or false commit. So in case of a write ahead log, when you are using before commit, the writing any action to the log is just before the commit. So commit does not mean apply permanently to the hard disk drive. Instead, write a log is a commit in the database system. Okay. So there are several operation. Then in addition to that, we have the undo and redo. Because the transaction is we cannot guarantee the data in the secondary storage. We need to always redo and undo to find the consistent data. Okay, but the textbook and the slide does not explain a lot for the rollback segment. Rollback segment is another secondary storage, permanent storage to keep the before image. Okay. So that is the log and journal. So what kind of information like the transaction, time, what kind of the operation, okay, and these are the operation. And I will show you the basic data structure of the log data, okay, later. Okay, so I'm going to skip that we already discussed about the commit and the redo and or undo. Okay, then finally we can define. We have seen such a characteristic of the transaction. Okay, transaction is a group of operation to keep the consistency of the data. We can summarize such a characteristic by 4 characteristics, which is called the ACID property. Nowadays, it is very important to understand the characteristic of the non-relational database, which is called the NoSQL database. So first, you should be able to understand the ACID property of the transaction, especially the relational database transaction. First, atomistic. Atomistic means it's all or nothing. If transaction is done, any operation in between, so begin transaction and the transaction, okay? If transaction is done, all the change will be applied. In case in the middle of transaction is aborted, falsely finished, not committed, then all the changes will be rolled back. All or nothing. That is atomistic. Okay? Then consistency preservation means, do you remember the database state? Database state means database schema plus data. That is called the database state. So any transaction guaranteed one database state to another database state. Okay, that is called the consistency. Database should be guaranteed, consistent. Okay, by solving what? Synchronization problem. Okay, so that is the consistency. Isolation means, I mentioned several times, isolation. How many transactions?
2.
Many transactions, 2 or more. In that case, somebody can update the data. I can update the data, but it's isolated, which means until I commit, is my change, my information will be isolated. For example, when I change it 1 to 2, okay, before commit, all the other transactions will lead 1 because it's isolated. However, if I commit, then we'll release. However, depending on how much isolated, there are different levels of the isolation. Like I can release uncommit data even. Okay, it's isolated, but I open the uncommit data. I change it 1 to 2, but not commit, but 1 will be read by other user. It's a very, very the low level, the isolation. But only commit data will be accessed. Also, highest level is even though committed, if the time of the transaction is before I start, the one of the transactions should be able to read before, right? Even though committed, but if the another transaction is running, starting before my transaction and still running, should be guaranteed. Okay? So there are different levels of isolation. Okay? SQL 2 standard provide 4 different. I will show you what are they. You don't have to worry about each and every detail, but keep in mind the different isolation. Nowadays, most of DBMS support different isolation level. Most of case 99.99 do not change the isolation level. It hurts sometimes. Because long time ago, 10, 20 years ago, we consider which one is the better or which one is the fit to the business model. But nowadays, it's serializability. I will explain what is a serializability level is the use. That is the isolation level. And in other words, this is a guarantee one. Concurrency control. Concurrency means multiple transactions can be run same time. Concurrency control. Durability or permanency. Once committed, as we have seen here, we are able to guarantee the change in the data, even though it's updated in the memory, because of the right-hand law, it's a durability, it's a stable. We can believe the data. Because of such a characteristic, still relational database management system is the top market share. Because people believe, okay, guaranteed. If you do not believe your database, how can your customer use your database, right? I submit the stock trading, but my transaction is not guaranteed. So Apple, the market is going up, so I try to buy, but it's not guaranteed, then you will lose your customer because of that relational database. Because of ACID characteristic, the relational database is still top market share. However, because of this, it cannot be very flexible. Okay, it's a very strong property. So nowadays we have the NoSQL database. NoSQL database cannot guarantee the whole of this. Relaxed, some of them. So this is the so in SQL 2 standard defined such the concept that we have discussed so far. Okay, then there are different levels of isolation. Read uncommitted allow. Even though uncommitted data, it will be read. And only read commit. And the last one is a serializable. Serializable is the current one, which means when we have the multiple transactions, we are going to schedule serially, the one by one serially, the schedule, the multiple transaction that can preserve ACID property. Okay? So there are techniques that I skip, but if you are interested in how to make the schedule for the transaction, number of transactions, you can take a look at. So that is a serial. If we can make the serial, the processing of the transaction, that will be the guaranteed one. Okay, so that is the serializable. Only serializable transaction will be the open to the others. But nowadays, this is a default. Okay. Then this is the end of the transaction. Next class, we will talk about how to guarantee concurrency control using the two-phase commit, which will be the last topic of the class. Any questions? Okay, thank you, and see you next class.